All right, welcome back. So here's the question of the day. What is XRP? Yeah. And what does it mean for the IMF to say that there's a new Bretton Woods moment? Let's roll that beautiful intro and find out. Here we go.
This is Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Subscribe for new content notifications. Now, here's Brad Kimes. Come on in.
All right, welcome back to the show. You can follow me on Twitter at Backup Bradley above at the top of the screen and everything that we're talking about here today. Let's go ahead and get into this thing because we are going to answer the question, what is XRP, as well as other things as we go into this. Let's start with this, though, because this really does speak to the trend that we have identified on this channel from the very beginning, which is a international level decision and then seeing that roll down domestically to the United States and other respective countries around the world. Things start at a G7, G20 level and come down. And the IMF here says that they are proud to say that in this crisis we have embraced wholeheartedly thinking about the pandemic world as one of that is green and fair. And there's two main components here in this idea that the IMF has put forward in this new Bretton Woods moment that they are calling for. Quick reminder that Bretton Woods in 1944, I believe it was, gave the birth of the IMF itself and also gave us the US dollar as the global reserve currency at that time. What's interesting about that is if you're calling for a new Bretton Woods moment, I've said it on this channel many times. Are we saying that we need a new central bank like the IMF to oversee potentially the governance of XRP in its escrow release? Is that what we're saying? And are we also saying that we need to see the US dollar replaced with such a bridge currency like XRP, taking the strain of the Triffin dilemma off of the US dollar, allowing it to function just as a national currency, as everyone's currency would do from now on, if that should happen? That is a very real question here. I'm not the one calling for a new Bretton Woods moment. Kristalina Georgieva is. And the entire IMF. And that means on an international level, so is the whole financial world, right? Very, very interesting. And I just don't think that it's something we can just kind of, say once and forget about. This is something that's not going away here. And what have we heard from globalists around the world? Never let a good crisis go to waste. We've even heard the former IMF director say that, who is now the president of the European Central Bank. I'm talking about Christine Lagarde. So this is a narrative that is very real, and there's really two big components inside of this coming from the IMF about a new Bretton Woods moment. And it's payments and trade in that area is one, and climate and going green, right? The decarbonization for banks and the financial system generally broadly speaking. And how does that fit in? Where does it, when I first started hearing these kinds of narratives, I thought to myself, going green, shouldn't we be hearing like oil companies talk about going green? What are banks talking about going green? They talking about going paperless? Well, in short, yes. And they're also talking about moving to a new financial system that has a low carbon footprint and eventually no carbon footprint, which I firmly believe will be XRP and the XRP ledger. All right, now let's keep this thing moving here because we got other stuff to go over here and we're getting ready to get to it. So just a reminder here of what we're really facing. We are really, truly this early. You're not just an investor if you're in this space. You're a speculator. You're a pioneer. Some would even use the word vanguard, right? So the reality here is that, as good as it's been over the last couple of weeks, we are extremely early. And I tell you something, I want to say this to myself right now in front of all of you. And I think all of you should take a nod for it too, because the reality is I'm truly grateful, and I'm sure that you are too, to just have this awareness that has brought me into this space. I don't know, what it was that brought you here. And I know the things that brought me here, and I've shared them before, but I am extremely grateful that I have got the awareness to know to be in this space. It's not financial advice, obviously, but I truly am. That's my perspective on it. And I've missed so many things in my 49 years, like Amazon and Google and Apple. And I watched all of them take off. I missed IBM even as a young man. All of these things I saw go by me. I'm not missing this one. All right, let's keep this thing going here. So looking at this here, unclear on how XRP is different from Bitcoin. Here is what the asset is and how it relates to Ripple Labs. What is XRP by CoinDesk? This is a pretty solid article. I mean, there's a couple things I'm going to bring a point about, but let's take a look at this. It's not very long. I like the way it's put together, and let's just talk about this and go through this. And I think this can become like, a nice definitive resource for anybody that needs to know about XRP very quickly, or, anybody who just wants to fill in some of the fragmentation of what they may or may not understand about it. So let's get at this. So right here we see XRP is a digital currency which is issued, partly managed by Ripple Incorporated, a payment solution company that also manages RippleNet cross-border payments network. Ripple began selling XRP in 2012, though the company has turned its attention away from the digital currency and towards its cross-border payment network in recent years. Now, the main reason for that is because they know that the payment sector is the larger part of the narrative, and if you can capture that utility and prove that you are a good solution for that use case, my oh my, payments cross-border, internationally, they aren't just remittance payments. Okay, that goes into the derivatives market and everything else that has to settle in any kind of a way. So it's much bigger than people think. So now, how does Ripple work? Unlike Bitcoin or Ethereum, Ripple does not refer to a blockchain network with a native cryptocurrency asset. In fact, Ripple, the company, has a history of reframing how XRP fits into its business model, first embracing it as a fuel that powers its cross-border payments technology, then setting it to the side as it focused on Xcurrent, Xrapid, and Xvia, still other payment networks for cheaper and faster international payments. Now, this was a few years ago when these suite of products were developed and have now been combined to become on-demand liquidity through RippleNet. We're going to read about that in a second. Now, here in late 2019, they were rebranded as to RippleNet, and a payment network focused on quick cross-border transfers between financial institutions that also provided the ODL, on-demand liquidity, right, for that as well. And it's basically just a rebranding of those things all in one. In addition to RippleNet, Ripple also oversees the XRP ledger. Not so much anymore. A blockchain-like network that facilitates payments in XRP, the digital currency issued by Ripple. Like other cryptocurrencies, XRP can be sent to and from a digital wallet, irrespective of the international borders. When it was launched in 2012, Ripple marketed XRP as faster, cheaper alternative to Bitcoin because transactions settle in seconds. XRP's network can achieve this speed because its infrastructure is centralized and it does not utilize proof of work, the consensus algorithm used by Bitcoin to process transactions. Now, just quickly, I want to make a note about the XRP Ledger is not overseen by Ripple Labs at this point. XRP Ledger Foundation has been created. It is an independent nonprofit foundation meant to oversee the XRP Ledger. Now, this is important to note because I think it's been really part and parcel of a couple things. One, I do believe XRP and the XRP Ledger protocol will be used over time to facilitate transactions and settlement, and it will be a part, and it will be one of the main protocols of the Internet of Value, or the protocols that help move value across the world for the banking system and the Internet, anyone really, right? So it is important to note that they are separate. And it is also important to note that Ripple does intend at some point to IPO or go public to the public market. So knowing that, I think it's important that Ripple positioned itself to basically decouple from the XRP ledger as the overseer and focus more on the fact that Ripple is a blockchain infrastructure company. Right. Okay. So with that being said, let's keep going here, because it's also important to note too that this was, and I have this. Let me see if I still have this for you. We'll get to that in a second. So what is Ripple's UNL, and how is XRP different from Bitcoin? The committee of validators acts both like miners and full node operators of XRP by maintaining the transaction ledger. These validators reach consensus every 3 to 5 seconds when they publish a new version of the transaction ledger with the latest transactions. While anyone can run the code to be an XRP validator, that doesn't mean any validator will be trusted by others in the network. To earn this trust, they have to make Ripple's unique node list, the UNL, a registry of trusted validators curated by Ripple. There are currently 35 active XRP validators, 6 of which are run by Ripple itself. Ripple also offers a software suite called Ripple X for developers and businesses who are building on XRP Ledger. The platform includes tools, programs to interact with the XRP Ledger and PayID, and Interledger 2 protocols that are developed independently of XRP. Now, what's interesting to note here is that, the W3C, because it talks about Interledger here, the PayID, the Interledger. And when they're talking about basically a software suite, this is a SDK, right? A software developer kit. So this is almost like plug and play. These are templates, let's say, that allow developers to come in and businesses to come in and just quickly get to work and build on the ledger using these developer kits or templates, if you will. Okay, now the Interledger protocol was really built by Ripple and gifted to the W3C. The W3C is the World Wide Web Consortium. It is the international standards body and committee that oversees the practices of the internet that we use every single day. The Interledger protocol, like I said, was gifted to them, right? And that is an interesting thing to note, because it was gifted to them and they have been building on it since 2015, if my memory serves me correctly. So the Interledger protocol is really like the interface to the XRP ledger, and it can interface with any other protocol and make that happen, crossing over the XRP ledger from that to settle any asset of value, period. That's full stop. Right. So that's a pretty remarkable moment. Now, the difference between RippleNet and XRP are important too, because here again, you have the XRP ledger, which was created out of Ripple. You have RippleNet that was created out of Ripple. You have the ILP that was created out of Ripple. You see why Ripple is looked at as a blockchain infrastructure company. Okay, so now looking at this, the difference is Ripple's enterprise-facing network, RippleNet, does not require XRP to function. According to Ripple's website, banks from Santander to PNC Bank have used RippleNet's banking-focused blockchain to settle remittance payments and swap currencies. The company claims have settled nearly $500 million worth of transactions and serves 6 continents. The service supports more than 55 countries and 120 currency pairs. pairs. RippleNet's on-demand liquidity services is the only network feature that uses XRP, and this service is available in Australia, the Eurozone, United States, Mexico, and the Philippines. Now, that's exciting to me too, because again, this is one of those projects, an enterprise-facing network that has been created, has over 300 plus partners on this network, by the way, and a lot of them are the largest banks in the world. Again, they don't need to settle with XRP function, but they can when they're ready to. And knowing that we're about 6 to 8 weeks out from the clarity that we need for the largest economy of the world, and there isn't one person out here in this world that is arguing that we need to hear from some other country. It's the U.S. we're waiting on, and we've been told by Brian Brooks from the OCC in 6 to 8 weeks, you won't be waiting on us anymore. So that is an exciting timeline to pay attention to, understanding what RippleNet's capabilities are to bring the level of utility and liquidity to the usage and settlement of XRP, the digital asset. Bitcoin versus XRP. Unlike Bitcoin, XRP coins are not mined. Ripple minted the entire supply when the network was launched, and Ripple intermittently releases portions of the supply from escrow and sells them on the open market. Out of the total of 100 billion supply of XRP, 45 billion is currently in circulation. XRP's design sacrifices decentralization for speed, which I would argue it sacrifices proof of work for speed. And because Ripple scrapped Bitcoin's proof of work consensus mechanism, the network is arguably less secure. I would argue that too, because the reality is, it is much like, I'm reminded of what David Schwartz has said. The only way to stay on the UNL list and to be a validator of these transactions is because there's no reward, there's no incentive other than trust. If you don't respond in a trustworthy manner to settling these transactions, and in the process of consensus that is discovered by other validators on the list, it will simply eliminate you. You can only get away with that once. So trust is the only incentive. So as David Schwartz has so eloquently said, the best incentive to run a network is no incentive, but trust. And that's where we're at on this one. So looking down here on the side by side here, it says Bitcoin proof of work, XRP Ledger Consensus Protocol, Bitcoin hard cap of 21 million units gradually mined, and XRP is a fixed 100 billion units, which was really made in when the company was called OpenCoin, and then the 100 billion was gifted to Ripple, just as a side note, because it was not the same company when it was during its inception of XRP. Miners order transactions into blocks and maintain transaction ledger. Node operators keep copies of the digital ledger for Bitcoin. And on the XRP side, validators both maintain transaction ledger and keep a record of transactions. Only the UNL proof validators are trusted by the network, as it should be. Permissionless node network for Bitcoin, permissionless node network with the UNL list for XRP, and under Bitcoin it says not controlled by a central authority, and XRP it says overseen by a private company, which really is not accurate because, as I said, XRP Ledger is now an independent nonprofit foundation organization, and it is not overseen by Ripple, and Ripple sees themselves as a customer just as anyone else who uses XRP or the XRP Ledger for their business services. And the reason we know that is because in Q2, Ripple had made it very clear that they would be participating and buying XRP when they thought it was necessary off of the secondary exchanges or the secondary market, which is the exchanges you and I buy off of as retail investors. All right, looking at this, XRP can facilitate faster transactions because there is no mining involved in the transaction process. Instead of miners competing for block rewards and ordering transactions into the ledger during this process, validators verify transactions without promise of reward. These validators are vetted and trusted by Ripple, and this trust is necessary to Ripple or XRP's designed to prevent double spending. Additionally, this trust model is not unlike how credit cards or other digital payment networks operate today. That's exactly right. And like I said, the best incentive is no incentive, per David Schwartz. And it really is. When you think about it, it becomes that basic and that simple. Ultimately, XRP's centralization makes it less censorship resistant and permissionless than others. And open source blockchains like Bitcoin and Ethereum, anyone can run a Bitcoin node and partake in a network consensus, but only UNL nodes that are approved by Ripple can partake in XRP's consensus. Similarly, XRP validators could, in theory, easily collude to censor a transaction, while Bitcoin's proof of work system makes it impractical for miners to collude to censor transactions. Let's just hold up here a minute. Hold the phone. So, all right. So I take issue with some of this. So first of all, XRP is not is decentralized. It is an open source technology which is decentralized, and the difference I see here is that similarly, XRP validator nodes could, in theory, easily collude to censor the transaction. Technically, sure. Yeah, sure. Absolutely. But, the mathematical probability of that is pretty steep, right? And honestly, the moment that they did it, they would really take themselves out of being a validator, because the moment that it's discovered, they're gone. So it's one of those things where you have to weigh that out. Now, looking at Bitcoin, I want to remind people right now that Bitcoin and Ethereum are under 51% China miner controlled. Don't believe that. It's still true. I'm just giving it to you the way it is currently right now. So there are issues there on the Bitcoin Ethereum side. And we have the huge green issue of the carbon footprint that Ethereum and Bitcoin, especially as proof of work, are putting on this world. And that is a huge problem. And I go back to reference right now for you what Kristalina Georgieva and the IMF and largely the G7, G20 are all carrying as a narrative, which is going green, climate control, right? And how do we do that? Well, we don't do it by going to a proof of work system, unfortunately. So perhaps the difference between XRP and Bitcoin is best summed up as a difference between a company and an economy. XRP supply is used by a company at a rate determined by its executives, and transactions are processed by a committee of pre-approved stakeholders. Bitcoin supply is issued through a mining process at a mathematically predetermined rate, and transactions are processed by the global decentralized mining industry. Now, true with the Bitcoin, I get it, but I do want to remind people that with XRP is issued by a company at a rate determined by its executives. That part is true. And I must say, if we see XRP become adopted broadly by the banking system financial world, there's going to be, I would believe, a huge synchronized moment for that to take place. If that in fact happens that way, then I would imagine that, you're going to see an issue arise at some point about what happens to Ripple remaining the steward of the escrow release should we see that level of utility and liquidity make its way to the network. If it drives the price of XRP to an extremely high level very quickly, I would imagine that governments and central banks and large players around the world would start to probably have an issue with this. I would imagine, if I'm just walking out on a limb, and I don't think it's a thin limb at all, but I would imagine if such an event should take place, that we may even see I would imagine that if we see that happen, we could possibly potentially see the escrow release maybe fall under the guise of either the U.S. Treasury or something like the G7 or G20, some sort of federation maybe that's more internationally based, to come up with a governance of how the escrow is dealt with upon its monthly release of $1 billion every month, to exercise that monetary policy on a new asset to the world. All right. That is going to do it for me. And that is where we are on this day. I hope in some way we've been able to really help bring some clarity to what is XRP. I think it was a nice article to look at Bitcoin versus XRP and to see where we are today and what exactly is in front of us. One of the things I will say before we get out of here is that the next 6 to 8 weeks and seeing the clarity roll out that I believe will absolutely transform this space is going to be something to witness. A real moment of history. I do believe, before we leave, I do believe we are witnessing the greatest financial paradigm shift in the history of mankind, and it cannot be overstated. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe, leave a comment below, and smack that notification bell. Shout out to Baba Cugs, Mr. C. Yeah, I love that guy's optimism. You know, there's been just a small handful of us all out here. I know DAI, myself, Mr. B, and, you know, Baba Cugs and a few others that have just been absolutely remain bullish and positive and an unwavering confidence in XRP and its future. And I feel like we're closer than ever in seeing those things happen. So hit the like, subscribe, leave a comment below, share with somebody you know, and check out the links in the description in the comment section. There's a lot of stuff that you may want or need. And more importantly, they are trusted, vetted links. I'll catch you on the next one.